Go, man. Let's rock.
Intro, the 1990s, flannel shirts, frosted tips, and some of the most genuinely unforgettable music ever to come blasting out of a radio. While Nirvana ruled the world and grunge rewrote the rulebook, dozens of other bands had their moment. One perfect song, one glorious window of relevance, and then were gone almost as fast as they arrived.
Think about myself and then there she was.
Today we're going back. 10 bands from the 90s who shone brightly, burned briefly, and left behind songs that are still living rent-free in your head right now. Let's get into it.
Like disco superfly.
Band #10, Marcy Playground. And we close with possibly the most effortlessly cool one-hit wonder of the entire decade. Marcy Playground were formed in Minneapolis in 1994 by John Wozniak, as the transcript mangles it. Their self-titled debut album was released in 1997, and the second single, Sex and Candy, was one of those songs that seemed to materialize out of nowhere and immediately sound like it had always existed. The song reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and spent an extraordinary 15 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Modern Rock chart, which is the actual story here.
Downtown by myself, and I've had too much.
15 weeks at the top of modern rock. That's not a fluke, that's dominance. The song's laid-back, almost narcotic groove and its oddly evocative imagery.
Much caffeine and I was thinking about myself and then there she was.
Hanging round, downtown by myself, Disco Lemonade made it the definition of effortless cool. Nobody quite knew what it was about. Nobody quite cared. It just felt right.
Yeah, there she was. Like disco.
Their second album, Shapeshifter, in 1999 didn't generate follow-up attention, and Marcy Playground quietly faded.
Devious stares in my direction.
But Sex and Candy is the thing. It's the whole legacy, and honestly, it's enough. Band #9, Soul Coughing. Soul Coughing were not trying to be anyone's one-hit wonder. They were trying to invent something entirely new, and largely succeeded, to an audience that was never quite large enough. Formed in New York City in 1992, the band was built around the eccentric, creative vision of M. Dowdy, not Mike Doughty as the transcript garbles it. A vocalist and lyricist whose wordplay was unlike anything else in 90s rock. The lineup also included bassist Sebastian Steinberg, drummer Yuval Gabay, and sampler/pianist Mark DeGliantoni, and their sound was genuinely genre-defying. Funk, jazz, hip-hop, and spoken-word poetry running through alternative rock structures. Their 1994 debut, Ruby Vroom, established them as critical favorites. Their 1996 follow-up, Irresistible Bliss, produced Super Bon Bon, a funky, bass-driven, deeply weird banger that became a genuine alternative radio fixture and got them on MTV. But by 2000, the band had imploded. Dowdy has spoken openly in interviews about the creative and personal tensions that made the band unsustainable. He went on to a successful solo career under the name M. Dowdy. Soul Coughing's catalog has been rediscovered by successive generations of fans who find their particular brand of smart, quirky alt-rock exactly what they were looking for. Cult status, fully deserved. Band #8, Eagle Eye Cherry. Eagle Eye Cherry was practically born into music royalty, and then quietly built his own legacy on entirely his own terms. Born in Stockholm, Sweden in 1968, Cherry comes from a remarkable musical family. His father was legendary jazz trumpeter Don Cherry, and his half-sister is singer Nene Cherry, of Buffalo Stance fame. Growing up between Sweden and New York, he spent years as an actor, attending the same high school of performing arts as Jennifer Aniston. Before his father's death in 1995 prompted a full pivot to music, he retreated to Stockholm and recorded his debut album Desireless, largely alone. The lead single Save Tonight built slowly, first in Scandinavia, then across Europe, then in the US, where it climbed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. And earned a Grammy nomination for Best Male Vocal Pop Performance in 1999. The song's acoustic warmth and wistful lyricism, a love song about wanting one more night before everything changes, gave it a timeless quality that most late 90s hits don't have. It still sounds gorgeous. His second album, Living in the Present Future in 2000, didn't generate the same commercial traction, and Cherry has spent subsequent decades releasing music steadily but quietly. He's never stopped making records. He just stopped being a household name. Band #7. Len. Few songs capture the feeling of a specific summer as perfectly as Steal My Sunshine. You hear the first 3 seconds and you are transported. Windows down, nothing to do, nowhere to be. Len were a Canadian act fronted by siblings Sharon and Mark Costanzo, who brought a deliberately carefree, genre-blending energy to everything they did. Mixing hip-hop beats, laid-back guitar pop, and a general vibe of not taking anything too seriously. Steal My Sunshine reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1999 and became a ubiquitous presence on radio and MTV throughout that summer. What most people don't realize is that the song sampled Andrea True Connection's 1976 disco track, More, 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 giving it that instantly recognizable sun-soaked groove. It's one of those samples that feels completely transformed in its new context. Follow-up material never caught fire, and Len faded as quickly as they'd arrived. But Steal My Sunshine has had a second life in film soundtracks, commercials, and nostalgic playlists. A song so perfectly calibrated to its moment that it somehow transcends it. Band #6, Spacehog, glam rock, space imagery, killer riffs, and a riff so good it showed up years later in a Marvel movie. Spacehog were a British band formed in Leeds, though they relocated to New York. The lineup built around brothers Royston and Anthony Langdon, alongside guitarist Richard Steele and bassist Johnny Cragg. Their 1995 debut album Resident Alien was a genuine success. Propelled by In the Meantime, a song with a gritty, irresistible riff and a psychedelic swagger that made it an immediate alternative radio staple. The album sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Here's a detail that keeps In the Meantime alive decades later. The song's riff was prominently featured in the 2015 Marvel film Ant-Man, introducing it to an entirely new generation of listeners. But the follow-up album, The Chinese Album in 1998, couldn't find the same audience, who had no idea a Leeds glam rock band from 1995 was soundtracking their superhero movie. Alternative rock's moment was fading, and Spacehog's glam-influenced style felt increasingly out of step. Internal tensions followed, and by the early 2000s, the band had split. Royston Langdon pursued a solo career and later married actress Liv Tyler, which kept him in the tabloids if not the charts. Band #5, Primitive Radio Gods. Even the title of this song is an event. Standing outside a broken phone booth with money in my hand. It's a short story in 14 words. Primitive Radio Gods were the project of Chris O'Connor, a multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, and producer who essentially built the band's sound alone. Their 1996 debut album Rocket contained the single that made them briefly famous. A slow-building, melancholic track built around a B.B. King blues sample and a lyric that somehow managed to feel both deeply personal and universally relatable at the same time. The song made it into the top 10 of Billboard's Modern Rock Tracks chart, which for an act with essentially no label machinery behind them was genuinely remarkable. But the follow-up album White Hot Peach in 1998 failed to find an audience. And O'Connor's various other musical projects gradually absorbed his attention. Primitive Radio Gods faded. There's something about its particular flavor of late 90s melancholy, that worn-down, slightly defeated feeling, that ages remarkably well. A cult classic in the truest sense.
As I sit here in this misery and
Band #4, Blind Melon. This one is harder to talk about as just a one-hit wonder.
you have to change.
Because Blind Melon's story is genuinely heartbreaking, and the music deserved so much more time.
It's gonna find another way.
Blind Melon were formed in Los Angeles in 1990, built around 5 musicians, Shannon Hoon on vocals,
Yeah, they'll look at me and they'll say, hey, look at him.
Roger Stevens and Christopher Thorne on guitars, Brad Smith on bass, and Glenn Graham on drums.
They'll all look at me and say,
Their self-titled debut album in 1992 produced No Rain, a deceptively simple, deeply joyful song about wanting to be left alone. Paired with one of the most iconic music videos of the decade, the little bee girl, searching for somewhere she belongs, finally finding her people. No Rain reached #1 in the United States and Canada and helped the album eventually go quadruple platinum. Blind Melon seemed set for a long career.
some people will say, yeah, they'll look at me and they'll say,
Shannon Hoon was magnetic, raw, emotional, genuine, the kind of frontman you build a legacy around.
I don't wanna die. And as we all play balls of tomorrow.
But on October 21st, 1995, Shannon Hoon was found dead in his sleep on the band's tour bus in New Orleans. The cause of death was a drug overdose. He was 28 years old.
But that's okay. They're just afraid to change.
Their second album, Soup, had come out just 2 months earlier. The band eventually reunited in 2006
On the face of today. But then they'll paint me.
with new vocalist Travis Warren and have continued performing since. But nothing fills the space Shannon Hoon left behind.
Keep dreaming.
Blind Melon aren't really a one-hit wonder. They're a band whose story was cut short before it could be written. No Rain endures as both a joyful song and a bittersweet reminder of what might have been. Band #3. Crash Test Dummies. There is no other song that sounds like this. Not before it, not after it. Crash Test Dummies occupied a lane so specific that nobody else could find it, and that was both their greatest gift and their commercial limitation. Formed in Winnipeg, Canada in 1988 by Brad Roberts alongside Ellen Reed and brothers Dan and Mitch Dorje. Not Roberts brothers, as the transcript states, only Brad is a Roberts. The band built a following with their unconventional sound, rooted in Brad Roberts' extraordinary deep baritone voice. Their debut album, The Ghosts That Haunt Me, in 1991, won them a Juno Award, Canada's equivalent of a Grammy, and set the stage for what came next. That would be 1993's God Shuffled His Feet, which gave the world one of the genuinely strangest songs to become a massive global hit. The song peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and earned Grammy nominations. The album went triple platinum in the US. For a band this weird, that is a staggering commercial achievement. But the follow-ups, A Worm's Life in 1996 and Give Yourself a Hand in 1999, failed to recapture the magic. Changing tastes and the band's commitment to their experimental direction made mainstream re-entry increasingly difficult. They've continued to release music and tour sporadically, but their place in the cultural memory is permanently defined by that one singular, unmistakable song. Band #2, Semisonic. So gather up your jackets, move it to the exits. Every bar, every graduation, every sporting event. If you were alive in the late 90s, Closing Time was the soundtrack to endings of all kinds, and it hasn't left our cultural consciousness since. Semisonic were a Minneapolis trio formed in 1995 by Dan Wilson, John Munson, and Jacob Slichter. Wilson and Munson having previously played together in the Minneapolis band Trip Shakespeare. Their breakthrough came in 1998. With their second album, Feeling Strangely Fine, and its lead single, Closing Time. Now here's something most people don't know. Closing Time reached number 1 on the US Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart and was nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Rock Song at the 41st Annual Grammy Awards in 1999. It was also, by total airplay count, the most played song on American radio in 1998. That is not a one-hit wonder by any reasonable definition. That is a cultural phenomenon. The transcript says it hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That's actually not quite right. It topped the modern rock and mainstream rock charts, but peaked at number 23 on the Hot 100. Still massive, but worth the distinction. Their 2001 album, All About Chemistry, couldn't sustain that momentum, and the band went on hiatus. But Dan Wilson's story didn't end there, not by a long shot. Wilson co-wrote 3 songs on Adele's landmark album 21, including Someone Like You,
But you've got a secret smile, and you use it.
and also co-wrote Not Ready to Make Nice with the Dixie Chicks, which won the Grammy for Song of the Year in 2007.
Lying alone lane. I know
The songwriter's songwriter, Semisonic reunited in 2017, and released new music in 2020, proving the story still has chapters left.
let you out of my head.
Band #1, Deep Blue Something.
Out of my head.
What about Breakfast at Tiffany's? Yeah, you know every word. Don't even try to deny it.
Head. When I try.
Deep Blue Something were an alternative rock band from Denton, Texas. Not brothers Toby and Cliff Jones, as some sources claim, but actually brothers Todd and Toby Pipes, along with John Kirtland and Clay Burgess.
And again. Get you out of my.
They formed in 1991 and spent several years grinding away before their big moment arrived. Breakfast at Tiffany's originally appeared on their independent 1993 album, 11th Song. But it was re-recorded for their 1994 album Home and released as a single in July 1995 by Interscope Records.
Can't you see that you need me?
The song is a brilliantly simple piece of pop rock, a couple on the verge of breaking up, realizing the only thing they have in common
Thought you were going back to the start and again.
is that they both kind of like an old Audrey Hepburn film. Relatable? Strangely, yes.
Let you out of my head.
The song peaked at number 5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 in January 1996, and also topped the UK singles chart entirely, making it a genuinely global hit.
Let you out of my head.
That's not a one-hit wonder by accident. That's a perfectly crafted earworm. But nothing they released afterward came close. The follow-up album failed to generate any major singles, and by the early 2000s, the band had split. They took a 14-year hiatus, reuniting in 2014 and releasing new music since.
Common ground to start from.
Breakfast at Tiffany's remains the song that defines them, forever, immortally, inescapably. Honestly, worse fates exist. Outro, and there you have it. 10 bands who each had their moment. Some brief, some brighter than they're given credit for. And left behind songs that genuinely shaped the decade. Deep Blue Something, Semisonic, Crash Test Dummies, Blind Melon, Primitive Radio Gods, Spacehog, Len, Eagle Eye Cherry, Soul Coughing, Marcy Playground. The 90s had a habit of chewing bands up and spitting them out, genres shifting overnight, the music industry moving on before artists could catch their breath. But the songs survive. They always do.
Still I know you just don't care.
Which of these is your favorite? Is there a 90s one-hit wonder we missed that deserves a shout-out? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know.
I guess I was wrong.
If you enjoyed this one, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into the music that shaped us. Until next time, keep digging.